How's it going, guys? Hope you're doing well today. I recently had the privilege, last weekend actually, to shoot a sci-fi short film, and I want to make this video today to kind of talk you guys through how we prepped for this film and how I lit it and what equipment that we used to shoot this thing. So to give you guys some context of what's going on here, so that some of the psychology behind like the framing choices that we have will make more sense after I talk about them later. The short film follows a sick and dying old man whose name is Travis. And he's played by a really great actor named Scott, who's local to where I live here. And Travis is on the hunt for someone to swap consciousness with, and without giving away too much, he finds someone, but it doesn't really go all to plan, and I'll just kind of leave it there for now. So the film opens up with this bar scene where our lead antagonist, Travis, and then our protagonist, Morgan, meet for the first time, and they're both in there having a drink for different reasons. Morgan enters the bar, and she kind of states that her and her husband are having a kind of an argument. She's just kind of there to take the edge off. So for this bar scene, the director and I sifted through a lot of different stills from shot deck, and eventually agreed on kind of like a vibe that we were going for. And one big call out the director gave me was from this like side profile that we're seeing this two shot in here, he didn't want a full silhouette on the shadow side. He wanted some wrap around the light side of the face, so that during this two shot, when we're watching this conversation, we can see some expressions from both people, and it's not just a full blacked out silhouette. And so continuing on with the inspiration on how I chose to light this, there were two main movies that I pulled inspiration from that had kind of like the lighting scheme that I was going for. And there was this casino scene in, I think it's Skyfall, one of the James Bond movies shot by Roger Deakins, and then this David Lynch movie that we all, I'm sure, have heard of called The Social Network. And in each of these scenes that I'm referencing within those movies, they have kind of a similar lighting setup in the sense that it's a pretty dim overall space, like the tone of the whole room is fairly low, but there is this kind of like side, like upper side lighting, causing this kind of like nice, not really a top light, but it is giving like a Rembrandt over on the shadow side of the face. And fortunately, there's actually plenty of behind-the-scenes content for The Social Network, where I got to see pretty much exactly how that lighting situation was orchestrated. And I then translated what I saw in that behind-the-scenes footage and how the light was falling on the actors' faces to what equipment I have available to use for this scene. And so I chose to use my two GVM panels, which I've made some videos about before. So basically what I did is I boomed two of those guys using C-stands up into the air at about the elevation that these lamp lights were hanging in the bar, and then I kind of crossed the C-stand arms over each other so that one of the panels was facing more this way, and then the other panel was facing more this way, so that when the actors were talking to each other, the panel on this side was illuminating the face here, and the panel on this side was shining across and illuminating the face here. And that gave the wrap that we were looking for, to where we could see some expression from the actors during this two-shot, and that was what the director had requested, so it kind of worked out. And so like I said, we wanted to use these lamps as kind of like the motivating source, and as a cinematographer or a filmmaker, director, whatever you are, whoever you are watching this, if you're wanting to make videos or short films or whatever it is, one really great way to make everything look better immediately is to use what's called motivated lighting. So to determine the direction and the intensity that these GVM panels should be kind of like blasting from, we use the existing overhead, like these like hanging bar lamps that you can see here, as the motivating sources for this light. And so basically what I had to do was when I boomed these overhead, I had to make sure that it looked like it made sense in terms of direction. And also, since the panels only go down to about 2700 Kelvin, which wasn't quite warm enough to get to the warmth that these overhead lamps were, I just slipped on some like orange gels to better match the color temperature that we were seeing from the lamps, so that it looks like they're being lit from the overhead lamps and not from panels that I put into the scene here. I want to talk about the four main rules that I used throughout the entirety of this shoot. And so the first rule, and if you have been on the filmmaking side of YouTube for any amount of time at this point, I know you probably heard this, and that is shoot from the shadow side. So basically all that means is if you have a key light, like a fill side on one side of your talent and a darker side on the other, you want to shoot into the shadow side of the subject, and that just adds overall depth to the image, and to keep it short here just makes it look a lot better. So shoot from the shadow side, and if you follow this one rule, everything that you make will immediately start to look a lot better. The second rule that I just kind of alluded to in the previous segment was motivated lighting. So pretty much all that means is you want to have something that you see in the scene that motivates the light that you're seeing in the room and or on the talent. And so basically you just don't want anything to look really sourcey, like, oh yeah, that's a light on a tripod just off frame blasting into their face, and that's where the light's coming from. It needs to feel natural and like that light exists in the world already, basically lying to the audience, saying that this is how light works in this reality. The third rule is to give each shot some depth, and again, trying to keep it short here because depth can mean a lot of things in filmmaking in terms of lighting contrast, lighting color, framing, etc. But basically what I'm looking for with depth in my images, and the way that I mean it here, is something in the foreground, the midground, and the background. The fourth, and arguably the most important rule, was to make sure that each shot conveyed the story that we were trying to tell. And so, for example, in this shot here, we see Morgan and Travis meet for the first time, and when Morgan meets Travis, she's clearly pretty uncomfortable with the situation, like she's like not being really trusting of this random guy who's trying to like talk her up at a bar, rightfully so. And as time goes on, you know, we see her chug her first drink, and again she's kind of there to like let off some steam and let loose a little bit, take the edge off. And so as she drinks her drink pretty quickly, which I have a funny story about here in a minute, and as Travis kind of puts on this old man facade, like this friendly old guy, like, hey, how's it going, well, can I get you a drink, like trying to act like her friend, the frame moves from giving her very little breathing room on the eyeline side of her frame to opening up a little bit and relieving some of that tension. And so this is like a tried and true classic way of showing tension in a conversation and dialogue, or just in a scene in general, to, you know, when we open that up, it feels more like we can breathe, Morgan can breathe, she's feeling comfortable now, and it's kind of just like this unspoken visual way of showing tension versus like relaxation in the scene. So Penelope, who was our great actress who played Morgan, had to drink so much water for this scene. So typically in filmmaking, I don't know if you've noticed this before, but when someone drinks or eats something in a scene, almost always the camera will cut to a different angle, to the person across the table, or to a close-up or a wide shot or whatever it is. There's a cut so that you never really see the actor swallow their drink or their food or whatever, because if they have to do like 36 takes, you don't want them drinking a gallon of, you know, grape juice if it's like a red wine, or a gallon of water, or eating like 36 hamburgers. Like, you have to like let them spit it out. That's how that works usually. But for the story, we needed to show that Morgan was going there to like let loose, and so we needed to show her chugging her first drink. So that became part of the story that we just couldn't cut out. And so I think that we ended up with either 7 or 8 takes in total, where Penelope had to drink like a full glass of water, which was vodka in the scene, 7 or 8 times. And so it was like a lot of liquid that she was having to consume pretty often. So great job, Penelope. So that's about all that I have for you guys today. If you feel like this kind of content is valuable and you like to see like you know, these kind of like how it's made style, you know, how I made this short film, how I lit this scene, let me know in the comments below, and I'm happy to keep making some more content like this in the future. Thank you for watching this video, and have a great day.